Well, I didn't see that one coming. I don't think anyone saw that one coming. I don't think anyone with a pair of functioning brain cells would have predicted this one coming, because, oh boy, there is a lot to unpack here, okay? So you'll have to bear with me. This will be somewhat rambly, because this goes far beyond Battletech looking at 40k and going, hey, maybe we could do that too, which is not a very good idea, mind you. This does not work. This really does not work, and that has been demonstrated by a near overwhelmingly universal negative reception to this, with pretty much everyone at best shaking their heads in absolute disbelief, and the others who have had a little bit more time to process going, hold on, this is like smearing mayonnaise on fish before dipping it in beer and drinking it. It ain't gonna work, buddy. It simply just ain't gonna work. And this is not a April's Fool's either, even though it very much so does look like it, as they have released a massive lore dump document explaining what's going on here. And just look at this. It's almost more 40k than 40k is at this point, which is a problem we will be returning to in a moment, by the way. So, oh god, it's so no, it's painful. Anyways, on Blue Sky, where Catalyst Games Lab posts these days, because, you know, they don't really post on Twitter because they are a very, very, very progressive company. Well, the endless war sweeps the human sphere, and you are mustered to fight, but you need to know the horrors you'll face on the battlefield, be they battle mechs, abominations, or the great powers of humanity. So, they mentioned here what exactly this is supposed to be. Explore Battletech's first alternative universe with Battletech Gothic. So, this is the multiverse for Battletech. Now, there have been deviations in the Battletech timeline previously, but nothing quite like this, as far as I'm aware, where they just take 40k and go like, hey, we could do that too. No, you could not, for many reasons. Okay, let's start explaining why this is a terrible idea, right? And it really is 40k, even down to, like, stuff like this. How is this not a Slaneshi piece of artwork, exactly? God help me. Right, let's begin with the basics, shall we? Grimdark is a fairly specific type of setting. It has a specific sense to it, a specific flavor, a specific universe feel. It has, you know, clear and identifiable factors that can often be boiled down to things kind of suck. Things really, really kind of suck. And this is also usually combined with some overwhelming external force, some sense of dread and despair, of looming doom and helplessness, etc. Now, this is something that even 40k is currently struggling with, as Warhammer 40,000 has been losing its way a lot recently, moving more in the direction of hope punk, frankly, rather than actual, genuine, true Grimdark. And this already is flailing in that, like, how do we make it Grimdark? Well, we put a little statue on it and a little crown. Okay. We give this one a little hat and a cape. I don't think you understand what this means. And even adding in the kaiju, the abominations, honestly, this feels more like Doom to me than Grimdark. And the entire idea of, oh, but you're fighting monsters now, horrible, horrible monsters. Yeah, but they're horrible monsters used by humanity to fight against the rest of humanity. I don't think you understand what Grimdark is, or what the feeling of it is. Furthermore as well, the lore dump doc is actually a mistake, in my opinion. And allying the abominations with humanity is a massive mistake as well. Okay, here's another thing. Grimdark, in my opinion, as more and more I've thought about it, is actually a somewhat lazy setting idea, because it relies on you to make it popular. And I'll explain what I mean here, but for a moment, Let me explain to you an idea here of Grimdark, and one of the primary reasons why it's often very appealing to a lot of people by bringing up an example from Trench Crusade, which I consider to be the peak example of lazy Grimdark, okay? So here you have a Hell Knight. It's obviously a demonic entity, it's obviously evil, it's blood, it's dark, it's all kinds of nasty imagery, okay? Now, this could be any Hell Knight, frankly. There's very little truly defining about it, very little unique, but here's the clever thing. With Grimdark, when you present something like a demon, your mind already has a great deal of reference material for demons, for monsters, and monsters and demons are cool. We like demons and monsters. They've usually got awesome backstories to them. And so you look at it, and your brain immediately starts piecing together puzzles. When you don't have that much information, you look at it, and you go, oh wow, look at this. What does the key mean? What does that signify? Why is his cloak made out of chains? Is that some indication that he's bound by something? Or bearing some tremendous weight, perhaps? Perhaps he's tied to service. What are the lights in the background? What was the iconography? What does that mean? Why is there no glow in his eyes? Is it just an empty suit of armor, etc.? This is the true trick of mystery and Grimdark. Once you see a piece of artwork like this, or almost any demonic entity in general, your brain begins racing. It draws upon all of the references you have of demons, one of our biggest, evil things in our consciousness and mythology, and you begin making your own headcanon. And in so making, you make your headcanon, your preferred interpretation of things. In other words, your headcanon is going to be your preferred version of the lore and the meaning of what you're seeing. And since it is your interpretation, you are obviously immediately positively disposed towards that thing. That is the genius trick of vague, grimdarkish mystery. By making you build your own ideas of the setting and the things in it, you automatically like it more because, well, it's kind of a little bit of your thing now. This is a very common trick that has been employed in a lot of Grimdark over the years, a lot of it. And now, having realized it myself, I see it everywhere. And it's genius. It is diabolically genius. However, that really doesn't work for Battletech, okay? Battletech's great strength isn't in mystery. No, not at all. It is a massive established setting, okay? Let's see, I think it has star maps, it has empires, it has long histories. In fact, the first 3 or 4 pages are just talking about the history of Battletech and how in this alternative universe that history has changed, right? This is not Grimdark. This is the exact opposite of Grimdark mystery. This is a vast universe with tremendous quantities of stories, of history, of actions, of events, of wars. Like, every mech design has a story. The mech weapons have developers and histories, details, like, oh, this one tends to run a little bit hot, etc. This is a detailed world. And by introducing something that relies on mystery, on grimdark and suckiness to be enticing, to be grabbing you, you defeat the purpose of all of that. In fact, by explaining things, you make it lesser by making the abominations into simply just war machines. I'm looking for the picture here again. Where is it? No, that's the Nurgle artwork, wasn't it? By making them into simply just war machines, they're no longer something inexplicable. You look at this and why is it green? Is it because of some toxic fog or something? No, it's because it's green. It's green now. It's green. Oh yes, this one too. Where you have the monsters, it's just a weapon now. It's not a demonic monstrosity, it's not a beast from the pits of hell. It's a genetic experiment. It's an overgrown cow that they've mounted a cannon onto. Okay. I mean, weaponized kaijus is kind of cute, I guess, but it's not Battletech. That's the problem. It is the exact opposite of Battletech. It undermines the core purpose, point, thrust, and weight of Battletech, and gains nothing by doing so as well. Again, if the core idea is the mystery, you should have made these the enemies. You should have made the monsters some kind of horrendous external force, which is kind of what they do, weirdly enough, on the covers that they've produced. Like, this makes it look like the Battletechs are resisting some kind of hellish demonic incursion, some invasion of unexplained monstrous beings. Okay, at least then you'd be a little bit interested, like, okay, this is weird, but why are the armies of hell invading Battletech? You could add in the mystery that Grimdark requires there. Instead, you've already explained it all, and here's one of the big drawbacks of leaning into this kind of mystery Grimdark, right? By relying on the player to begin building up his own vision of the world, his own headcanon, his own preferences to hook him in and make him interested, when you need to explain something, it all falls apart. This was one of the first things when I was reading about Trench Crusade's lore that started to, like, jitter in my brain. Because initially I was reading it too, and I was like, okay, this sounds really cool. Here's a demonic creature from the 7th layer of hell that uses fire exclusively as a weapon, unholy flame. Like, okay, that is pretty gosh darn metal. I love it. And then I came to a segment of a sorcerer creature, a suicide. So they explained there that committing suicide, killing yourself, that is the greatest affront to God imaginable. Okay, sounds cool, sounds awesome. And so there are people living in cities on Earth. Hell has cities on Earth? Yeah. And there are people who sacrifice themselves by committing suicide, and some of them become sorcerers, and that's all wonderful. How the hell do these cities run? Who feeds them? How do people live? How do people breed in these cities? How do they think that their demon overlords aren't evil? Do they treat them nice? Do they have school services? Do they indoctrinate them to be anti-God? What, do they corrupt their souls by their mere presence? Aren't there, like, rebellions with people going like, God, I wish I wasn't butt-fucked to death by demons every day? By introducing the idea of a society, you've now kind of ruined a great deal of your setting. Why do the humans fight for the demons? You gotta explain this now. How do they feed them? Do they have, corn in hell? Do they grow food? Do they process it? Do they eat meat? How do they create it? Does meat grow in trees? What do they drink? Because you've also mentioned that they kind of putrefy the water, etc., etc. This is the issue. Once you've created a headcanon version, you've created a very small version. You haven't built a universe, which is what Battletech has. And the moment when you try to expand upon that universe, you then begin running into problems, where your stated version, in this case of hell being an absolute destructive force, hell bent on the ruination of everything, immediately I start questioning things. Up until that point, I hadn't even gone, okay, sure, of course they've got human soldiers, because you gotta have something to be the cannon fodder, right? Obviously. But when you bring it up, I start asking questions. This is the same problem with all of the vagueness. When you begin to counteract or act upon in a different way the headcanon that your users have built up, you get that disconnect, that immediate disassociation. That is the benefit of a larger, more complex universe, avoiding a lot of that. And this is exactly, again, the error Battletech has committed here. Now I'm not even interested in the Kaiju Cannon Cow, because you've explained what the Kaiju Cannon Cow is, and the Kaiju Cannon Cow makes very little sense in the Battletech universe. Why did you make the Kaiju Cannon Cow? And the more you explain it, the less interested I am, which is also why, like, a 47-page lore dump document, or 38, is actually it doesn't help your cause. Battletech just doesn't mix well with this style of setting, this style of feel. And when you also add in the absolutely blatant 40k inspiration. I mean, this just looks like a Lord of Change at this point. It just looks like a Tzeentchian entity. It's even got a goddamn beak, and there's like a burning church structure in the background, and it's probably like, I don't know, a temple or something, or a drop pod or something in the universe, I'm sure, but it looks like a burning temple. Even the goddamn electricity posts, for some reason, look religious now. You've added in too much Gothic without understanding what the appeal of the Gothic is. You've added in 40k for no other reason than you figured it would look good. And of course, to loop back again to the reason why they did this. Battletech as it is right now is not thriving. It's not doing well. It's basically subsisting from Kickstarter to Kickstarter. It is living hand to mouth, and it doesn't have really the chops or the sales to haul itself up from this position. It lives on and dies, heading towards the latter direction, solely on its community being willing to repeatedly give them large sums of monies for products that they haven't actually made yet. This is not a great business strategy, and whilst obviously, relatively maintainable for a while, it's clear now that they're looking for something else to build the future upon, and this is that. Okay, we've done pretty much everything we can with Battletech, as this is the drawback, by the way, of having a very large and established universe. Eventually, unless you planned far enough ahead, you'll run out of stuff, and as you run out of stuff, you run out of new models, etc., you run out of ways to monetize your setting, and once that happens, you're kinda boned. One of the ways in which many franchises have attempted to solve this is by going, hey, this is an alternative universe. And that isn't even inherently bad, mind you, either. I'm not opposed to the multiversal nonsense. As ridiculous as it all too often is, and as actively detrimental as it is to many a story, I like the idea of what-if scenarios. What if Batman was a vampire? What if he was a caveman? What if he was a goddamn Tyrannosaurus Rex? Okay, make it, and we'll see. But this is so far beyond a simple what-if scenario. This is basically its entire own game setting, and it's smashing together two things that don't belong, that don't work together. And it'll only really end up reducing both things. It'll make Battletech Gothic an absolute complete laughingstock, as it indeed already is, and will make Battletech and Catalyst Games Lab just kind of look desperate and flailing, like they're not sure what they're doing anymore, like they're not sure what Battletech is anymore, and they definitely have no idea what its player base wants anymore. And again, the answer to this is, as I've said about 40k a multitude of times, you are far better off by picking a segment within your larger story and turning that into something interesting. Like the Horus Heresy, for example. Pick a period where something remarkable happened, with good characters, good stories, and, iconic battle mechs in this case, and carve that out as its own thing, instead of going, hey, you know that game that's vastly more popular than us? Yeah, that. Because you're probably just gonna come across as a weird knockoff, which is this very much thing here. Honestly, they should have just gone deeper into the hellish aesthetic. They should have gone like full Hellgate London with this and be like, oh yeah, so back in the olden days before like a lot of stuff happened, hell invaded. Yeah, just hell invaded. Because at least then you would have the mystery, and I guarantee you most of your players would be more willing to accept that than 40k Battletech. Of all things, no, the choice as well. 40k Battletech. The Battletech community and the 40k community do not necessarily get along. They don't necessarily hate each other, but they've definitely got a little bit of a hate-love relationship there, with both viewing themselves as the superior gentleman's tabletop war game. And combining the two is really just gonna piss off everybody. But yeah, Battletech Gothic. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks this. I doubt it, but this just seems like a genuinely terrible idea to me. Like Catalyst Games Labs just don't know what they're doing anymore. And maybe that's a good thing. We'll have to wait and see, I suppose. Until then, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.